Japanese media hyping China's rare earth supply halt. Why do those who cry foul the loudest deserve it most? The winter of 2025 has brought a chill to Japanese manufacturing that is colder than the temperature, a chill emanating from China's silence. On December 7th, Japan's Yomiuri Shimbun suddenly dropped a bombshell, reporting that multiple government officials were privately complaining China's export approval process for rare earths to Japan has slowed down, with some critical materials in a state of de facto stagnation. The fuse for all this points directly to the new Japanese Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, who, barely a month into her tenure, began issuing radical statements concerning Taiwan. The most counterintuitive aspect of this is that Japan first broke the rules by escalating tensions over the Taiwan Strait. Now that the fire has singed their own eyebrows, they are putting on an innocent victim act, shouting, "How can you not ship my goods on time?" This is like a neighbor's kid throwing a brick through your window, then turning around and crying because you won't give him candy. This breakdown in logic has stunned the world. Let's first clarify why this rare earth issue is driving Japan crazy. Don't be fooled by the word earth. This substance is nicknamed the industrial MSG. Your home-cooked meal might just taste bland without MSG, but high-tech products without rare earths are reduced to scrap metal. A simple example: the motors in your electric car, or the servo motors in industrial robots, all require a permanent magnet material called neodymium iron boron, NdFeB. Without rare earths, these motors cannot rotate, or their efficiency is so low they are unusable. Japan, self-proclaimed robot kingdom, with giants like Toyota, Honda, and Fanuc, consumes vast amounts of rare earths daily. China's move to restrict the supply is akin to directly pulling the power plug on Japan's high-end manufacturing. What's even more mind-boggling is that this isn't just a matter of mining. Many people think China just has a lot of minerals, but China's true terror lies in its separation technology. Rare earth ore is mined as a jumbled mix of elements. The core technology lies in separating and purifying these elements, like meticulously sorting salt and sugar grain by grain from a pile of flour. Currently, China controls over 90% of the world's rare earth separation and purification capacity. This means that even if Japan digs up ore in the US or Australia, it must still be shipped to China for processing. It's like China is the only flour mill in the world. No matter how much wheat other countries grow, they have to seek China's approval to eat bread. This is absolute supply chain dominance. So, in the face of Sanae Takaichi's provocation, is China's export delay an innocent oversight or a thunderous counterattack? What ugly political calculation is hidden beneath Japan's so-called victim mask? Let's tear through the pretense and examine the truth behind this confrontation. Staged diplomacy, Sanae Takaichi's political gamble. Frankly, we have seen shameless behavior, but never quite like this. Let's rewind the timeline by a month. On November 7th, Sanae Takaichi hadn't even warmed her seat as Prime Minister before rashly issuing outrageous statements concerning Taiwan, proclaiming that a Taiwan contingency is a Japanese existential crisis. What does this mean? It is a blatant threat to militarily intervene in China's internal affairs. It is crossing, and then overtly tap-dancing on, the international diplomatic red line. China immediately issued severe warnings. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Commerce spoke out, signaling, "Don't court death, because death comes with a price." The result? Takaichi did not back down but instead played word games in the Diet, Parliament, using hypothetical answers as a hedge. Did she think she was acting in a Japanese drama? Did she believe a few pretty words would gloss over the issue? Now the chickens have come home to roost. On December 7th, when the Chinese customs stamp took a little longer to apply, the Japanese government began playing the "pity me" card. The Yomiuri Shimbun quoted officials lamenting the situation, implying that China was engaging in economic coercion. This is akin to a bully who hits someone first, and when the victim merely glares back, the bully lies down on the ground, crying for help. This double standard of, "I am allowed to set fires, but you are not allowed to light a lamp," is a typical residue of Western hegemonic thinking. Japan seems to have forgotten that the cornerstone of China-Japan trade is political mutual trust. You dismantle the political foundation, yet expect the economic edifice to stand firm? This is like constantly cursing your landlord while expecting them to waive your rent. It makes no logical sense. 2. The supply chain, suffocation moment, more than shortages, it's obsolescence. Let's discuss the hard facts. Why is Japan so terrified of rare earth approval delays? Many think it's just a few days delay. They can rely on inventory. How naive! Modern manufacturing relies on just-in-time (JIT) principles. Companies like Toyota would prefer parts to be installed on the production line the moment they roll off the truck. Rare earths, as a critical raw material, will shut down the entire production line if the supply chain breaks for more than a week. Even more terrifying, this is not just a volume problem, it is a technological obsolescence problem. The core of Japan's boasted electric vehicle technology lies in its motors. And the core of those high-performance motors is China's heavy rare earths, such as dysprosium and terbium. Without these additives, magnets will demagnetize at high temperatures, causing EVs to break down. Compare this to the US and Europe. While the US has rare earth mines, like Mountain Pass, they primarily produce light rare earths. The most awkward fact is that the ore they mine still has to be shipped to China for processing. Why? Because the US domestic industry chain collapsed decades ago due to environmental and cost issues. Europe is even worse, relying entirely on imports. Now, China controls about 70% of global output and almost 100% of high-end processing capacity. Japan wants to find an alternative? Sure, try looking on Mars. On Earth, there is simply no supplier that can fill the gap left by China in the short term. If this delay persists, Japan's industrial robots, wind generators, and even their proud energy-saving home appliances will face the crisis of no rice to cook. This is not just about losing orders, it's about the entire industry potentially being completely overtaken by competitors, like Chinese companies with complete industrial chains, leading to a significant technological gap. 3. The echoes of history. Why can't they remember the 2010 lesson? This script looks eerily familiar. In 2010, when Japan illegally detained a Chinese fishing boat near the Diaoyu Islands, China restricted rare earth exports. Japan screamed in pain, frantically searching the world for alternatives, and even pulled the US into a rare earth supply chain alliance. 15 years later, what's the result? The result is that Japan went through all that trouble only to find it still cannot detach from China. While they slightly reduced their overall dependency, their reliance on China in the high-end sector has only deepened. Why? Because China has also advanced. Our technology is better, our costs are lower, and our environmental standards have improved. Now, Sanae Takaichi wants to reenact the 2010 drama. But she forgot that today's China is not the China of 2010. The China of 2025 is the world's second largest economy and an industrial powerhouse with a complete industry chain. We have many more cards up our sleeve than we did back then. Beyond rare earths, we have gallium and germanium, key semiconductor materials, and graphite, anode material for batteries. In April this year, China already introduced a series of control policies to counter US tariffs. What does this signal? That our toolbox is well stocked. If Japan insists on running into the firing line, it won't just be rare earth supply halts. Japanese officials are analyzing the situation, saying, "It's too early to judge whether China is responsible." This statement sounds nervous. They know perfectly well this is retribution for Takaichi's Taiwan remarks, but they dare not say it openly for fear of losing face, and even more, for fear of angering their US master. This spectacle of trying to survive in a difficult position while pretending to be tough is simply comical. 4. The Thunder Method, for maintaining peace, seeking unity through struggle. Finally, let's elevate the discussion. Is China doing this to pursue hegemony? Absolutely not. On the contrary, this is about maintaining regional peace. Sounds counterintuitive? Think about it. If radical politicians like Sanae Takaichi are not restrained for their reckless words and actions, she will mistakenly believe that China is weak and easily bullied, leading her to escalate the situation and perhaps even take a military gamble over Taiwan. That would be a catastrophe for Japan, China, and the world. By using economic means like rare earth approval processes to inflict a little pain on the Japanese government, China is bringing clarity to their overheated minds. This tells them, violating peace has consequences, and those consequences are immediate, tangible economic costs. China has always advocated for global technological cooperation. We are willing to supply the world with rare earths. But the premise is that you cannot use my rare earths to build weapons and robots to threaten me, while simultaneously pointing fingers and cursing me. Where in the world is that reasonable? Bloomberg's analysis is spot on. China's supply of critical minerals is a key reliance for Japan's auto industry, and it is one of the most unambiguous means of leverage for the Chinese side. This shows that the entire world understands China's logic. This is a defensive, rational, and necessary countermeasure. Only by punishing those who break the rules can the rules be respected, and peace be maintained. Friends, the Japanese media's crying foul this time has not won them sympathy. Instead, it has exposed their superficial strength and inner weakness.